Okay, so I think as everyone knows by now, Joe Biden will be the 46th President of the United States. Now, there's a lot of things that will be affected by that. Most of them I'm not too concerned about. You know what? Biden's pretty hawkish on foreign policy, as am I. He's very good on the environment, so am I, so I'm not too worried about those. But what I am concerned about is the future of the death penalty in the United States under a Biden administration. Now, I know in the past Joe Biden supported the death penalty, but he has since changed his position on that. During the campaign, and he actually put this on his platform, he said that he would work to end the federal death penalty. And even though he didn't say he would do this, I am concerned that he will commute all the sentences of those on federal death row to life in prison. One of the people on death row is actually the Tsarnaev, Johar Tsarnaev, the guy who detonated the bomb at the Boston Marathon. And that hit pretty close to home because I was born in Boston and I live near Boston. And I know people who were injured in that bombing. I know some people who were personally affected by that. And I want to see Tsarnaev put to death. I don't want him to get mercy. I don't want him to get clemency. And I am very concerned that Biden will either commute his sentence or abolish the death penalty. And so I kind of diverge. You know, I consider myself pretty liberal when it comes to social issues. But when it comes to the death penalty, I lean hard right. I go really hard right. That's one of the few issues where I actually break with my fellow liberals. Even some of my liberal hawk friends, you know, they're hawkish on foreign policy, which is good, but a lot of them oppose the death penalty. But I've always been an outspoken supporter of the death penalty, and I think I always will be. And so I do have major concerns about what this could mean for the future of the death penalty in the United States. Now, there are a lot of reasons I support the death penalty. For one, I think that it's the only way to ensure that a convicted murderer will never kill again. You can sentence someone to life all you want. They can still escape from prison, order murders from prison. That's happened before. They can kill other guards, other inmates. You know, executing them is the only way to absolutely guarantee that they won't kill again. And case in point would be actually a case I wrote about back in 2018, the case of Mark Hopkinson. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mark Hopkinson was a convicted murderer. He is the only person to have been executed by the state of Wyoming since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976. Mark Hopkinson he's one of the worst people I've ever studied. He is one of the most evil criminals I think this nation has ever seen. An absolute psychopath in every sense of the word. He was manipulative, charming, sadistic, cruel, vindictive. He would kill or hurt anyone who got in the way of what he wanted. No qualms, nothing. And anyway, so in 1977, Hopkinson was involved in a dispute with one of his neighbors regarding property rights. And Hopkinson, when it appeared he was going to lose the legal case, ordered the bombing of the lawyer who was representing his neighbor. He hired some kid to plant a bomb at the lawyer's house and literally blew up the house, killed the lawyer, his wife, one of his sons. One of the sons was the only survivor, although he was seriously injured. And for that crime, Hopkinson was arrested and sent to federal prison in California. And while Hopkinson was in prison in California, he ordered the kidnapping, torture, and murder of one of his former employees who had testified against him in the bombing case. This is a man named Jeff Green. So Jeff Green was found dead. He had suffered horrific torture. His eyes had been burned out with a branding iron. He had suffered over 150 cigarette burns all over his body. They were in the shape of the letter T for traitor. He had been slashed across the chest and the arms with a knife. There were burns along the bridge of his nose, his ears, his genitals. He suffered horrifically before a bullet to the head ended his life. For that crime, Hopkinson was actually sentenced to death. But even then, while he was on death row, Hopkinson attempted to order the murders of both the neighbor who first took him to court, and he tried to order the murder of the lawyer, of the prosecutor who sent him to death row. Those plans luckily failed, but only because the prisoner, the guy Hopkinson hired to carry out the murders, got cold feet. Now, Hopkinson was ultimately executed in 1992. It's the first and last time the state of Wyoming has carried out an execution in the modern era. And since Hopkinson has been executed, he hasn't ordered another murder. And, I think that for people like Hopkinson, who are so evil, so dangerous, and so morally repugnant, the death penalty is the only just sentence. And I cannot understand how the people who oppose the death penalty can reconcile the two. How can they how can they say that imprisoning somebody like Mark Hopkinson for life would still protect society when that clearly didn't work the first time? Jeff Green would still be alive had Hopkinson been executed for the original bombing. And if you want to read it, I'll leave a link to the article in the description of this video. It's a horrific case. Hopkinson is really one of the most evil people I've ever studied, and judging by the number of people, the types of people that I've examined, that's saying a lot. And there are a lot of people who are like Hopkinson who are on federal death row. Caboni Savage is another one. Drug lord. He was in solitary confinement when he ordered the firebombing of an entire family, the family of a witness who had testified against him in court. Caboni Savage was basically Mark Hopkinson on steroids. Caboni Savage is on death row actually right now, but I am positive that he has either ordered murders or has attempted to order murders from prison. And if Biden abolishes the death penalty, Caboni Savage would have his death sentence commuted to life. And Caboni Savage has already proven that he poses a huge danger to society. And this is a danger that will not go away as long as he is alive. As long as Caboni Savage is alive, society is in danger. I've heard all the arguments from death penalty opponents. I've heard countless hours of their excuse making, of their apologism for criminals, of their false equivalencies. And I am thoroughly unimpressed and unconvinced. A lot of times they'll call like the death penalty murder, or they'll equate it to that. Murder is by definition unlawful. And to equate the execution of a convicted murderer with the murder of an innocent person is insulting, really. It equates a judicial execution with an unlawful murder. And it's a completely false equivalency. I get sick of hearing that. Another one is, if you're so pro-life, why don't you oppose the death penalty? It's like, yeah, look, I'm not pro-life. I'm not anti-abortion. I'm pro-choice. But even I can see through that argument. Like, even someone as me, I'm not opposed to abortion. I still can see the difference between an unborn fetus and a convicted serial killer. And the fact that they can't is more an indictment of them than it is of me. And then there's the deterrent thing. They say, the death penalty isn't a deterrent. It's like, well, first of all, 100% of executed murderers never kill again. So I would say that's a pretty efficient deterrent. But on the other hand, set aside the deterrent effect. Even if the death penalty has no deterrent, that's not why I support the death penalty. I support the death penalty not because it's a deterrent, not because of vengeance or revenge or any of that stupid shit, the straw men that the antis come up with. I support the death penalty because it enforces consequences. It enforces a basic system of consequences. If you unlawfully take someone else's life, you forfeit your own right to life. This is a basic system of consequences. If you steal from somebody, you get a fine. If you kidnap somebody, you go to prison. And if you kill somebody, you forfeit your right to life. This should not be controversial. This is a basic social contract. Rights are only valid if they're respected. And if somebody is not respecting another person's inviolable rights, then they don't deserve to have those rights. This is a concept as old as laws itself. The Hammurabi codes, the oldest laws known to man, even those endorse the death penalty. He who kills a man shall surely be put to death. That's in the Bible. And this is a basic system of consequences. And I think that those who oppose the death penalty do so either out of a misguided sense of justice or because they've been completely misled by the arguments of the inmates. They have been swindled by those who have been convicted of murder. And I will never for the life of me understand why liberals put so much effort into saving the absolute worst people in society. Who wants Tsarnaev to live? What demographic are you appealing to? Who would put their time and effort that could be put to so many other worthy causes into saving a terrorist and a murderer who hurt so many people, who caused so much pain? That is inconceivable that somebody could possibly think that it's worth fighting for the absolute worst people in society. And I really get sick to my stomach when I see these anti-death penalty progressives and Democrats, and even some Republicans, unfortunately, advocating for these horrendously evil pieces of shit. Biden's opposition to the death penalty actually made me seriously reconsider whether I would vote for him or not. I seriously was debating whether I should sit the election out or write in somebody. But of course, the Trump administration has done so much damage in other areas. I like their stance on the death penalty, but they have been horrendous in foreign policy, horrendous on the environment, and have just been corrupt as hell. I had to bring myself to vote for Biden. I'm glad I did. I don't regret my vote, at least not yet. But I did have to reconcile the fact that electing Biden would put the death penalty in jeopardy. And I hope to God that the moderate Democrats, the ones who still have a head on their shoulders, are enough to stop the death penalty from being repealed in the United States. It's an uphill battle, but it's one that is definitely worth fighting for. Because if we don't enforce the most basic system of consequences, if we don't stand up and say that if you commit the most egregiously horrendous crime against your fellow man, you should suffer the ultimate punishment. If we don't come up and say that and put the ultimate value on human life, then society itself it loses its moral compass. We cannot claim to uphold life. We cannot claim to put the ultimate value on life if we don't punish the taking of it with the ultimate punishment. And this is something that I have always believed, and I will always believe. The death penalty is a legal and just punishment for certain heinous murders, certain murders. And nothing these anti-death penalty folks say will ever change that.